At a juncture in our society where women are competing in every angle, in every aspect of administrative life or technological life of an organization, or even administrative life, they are trying to occupy top positions. But at the same time, there are several problems faced by the women. Even though society is changing quite a lot, but the level of change and the fastness of the change which is required is not able to meet the requirements of the women employees. And here, contextually and from sociological point of view, it is right time to discuss about cyber feminism in overview. We must try to have an overview of this cyber feminism. Feminist movements have historically lacked inclusivity, often growing within a limited Western upper class psyche based on their own challenges and needs. The digital revolution has paved the way for a new concepts of cyber feminism. The digital space can bolster feminist activist movements by encouraging inclusion and improving accessibility in organizing collective action. It also helps to weave local stories with global narratives to highlight common structural inequalities at the same time. However, the digital space can also become a breeding ground for several bad things. The brief attempts to analyze how digitalization can affect women's movements, especially in emerging economies like India. It does so viewing contemporary cyber feminist thought through post colonial and post modern feminist theories. The brief overview, or I'll try to bring important points in this regard. As far as feminism is concerned, it's a movement. It's a it's an attempt for changing the attitudes of the society and towards women. The first wave of feminism began in the late 19th and early 20th century in the West, with the primary goal of securing voting rights. That phase has gone. The second wave emerged in the 1960s amid a rising self consciousness for minority groups and against the backdrop of civil rights and anti war sentiments. The movement largely focused on empowering minority groups over issues like reproductive rights and other some of the fundamental human rights to the woman. The third wave of feminism began in the early 90s, surging from the new post colonial and neoliberal world order. The third wave deconstructed the idea of universal womanhood with the focus moving from communal objectives to individual rights. The brief borrows the wave analogy to establish chronology of Indian feminist politics. This foundation of Indian feminism, first wave, led reform and anti-colonial movements. And there are so many differences between first wave, second wave, third wave, like that. The key difference between the waves, several waves of this feminism, was espoused by men on behalf of women initially and did not seem to challenge the hegemony of the Indian patriarchal and social structure, instead of focusing on specific cultural issues that conflicted with the idea of Western liberalization. Here we have to be careful. We are getting modernized but not totally westernized. Westernization is totally different and modernizing the society and accepting the woman leadership, accepting female leadership in the top position and working them, allowing them to do work without any harassment and without creating any hurdles. That is the what problem and that is what the concept in India. Now we have to concentrate on that. The latter was largely led by women and women's organizations. The lines between women's social, economic, and political rights became blurred initially, but now so many movements have come for education and social reform, largely led by upper caste people, but it is not reaching to the class. But now a day has come, a situation has come that many people, even from the lowest ebb of the society, through their education, technological education, entering into various organizations. And this role of technology, technical emancipation in education, brought even the lowest above the people in the modern organizations and paving a way, a path for them to occupy the top posts. Here, the role of technology is very, very important, and it is playing a great role in bringing the woman to the top positions. And definitely, even cyber feminism, when we discuss, even at this age, historically, feminism viewed within the restricted Western lens, the third world women are often seen as a powerless, victimized group in comparison to liberated Western feminists. This is all because of the attitude and approach towards human problem. Several bloggers have called for micro rebellions, spreading feminism, the free pathways of cyberspace. When women refuse, blog, for instance, was started, and that has its own impact on several organizations. Here, what I feel important is the digital space has also become hotbed for online harassment for women, bullying and sexual exploitation. It not only facilitates prevailing forms of misogyny but also gives rise to a new ones that are intrinsically connected with the algorithmic politics of certain platforms, the cultural bias that permeates while producing these technologies. Hence, the requirement is democratizing the feminist movements, where democratization has to be done in any organization. The internet separates the women from their material selves and has been considered as a promising new avenue. According to feminist activist Faith Wilding, there is a tendency through among many cyber feminists to indulge techno utopian expectations that new e-media will offer women a fresh start to create new languages, programs, platforms, images, fluid identities, and multi-subject definitions in cyberspace. But in fact, women can recode, redesign, and reprogram information technology to help change the feminine condition. That is the opportunity which the advanced technology will give to the woman. Coming to the fourth wave of feminism is still in its nascent stage in India. After Delhi rape incident brought women's safety in public places in the forefront, there was much movement, much discussion in the country, and lot of discussion happened. Government has brought rules, so many rules are given, so many directions are given, several organizations have formed committees, but still the wave of feminism is still nascent in the stage because still that suffering is there for women even in this cyber feminism. The days of fast society also, there are women who are being exploited, sexual harassment, women at workplace, and they are facing problems of several suppression and oppression. This intersectional cyber feminism, the virtual nature of the internet and its interconnectodes allows people participate in ongoing dialogues on various issues from patriarchy and gender politics to personal experiences. With cyber feminism becoming the norm, it is increasingly important to consider who controls the discourse and how it relates to the race, class, and other social structures. Transnational, post-colonial feminists such as Chandra Talpade Bahanti recognize that Western forms of feminism tend to homogenize and universalize the experience of all women no matter where they are. This is one perspective, one idea in working the style of feminism, cyber feminism. But one thing we have to accept, even in the days which we consider highly advanced, days of cyber feminism has created a rift between the ideologies of the older and younger generation of feminists. Feminists Younger generation of feminists, they have their own perspective, they want free movement, free interactions and other things. The older generation wants still a conservative, proper rights of place and posting and other things. So these two generations also have a conflicting views about this diverse feminism. In India, divide is mainly emerged due to structural differences of power between feminist groups. A Facebook page managed by Dalit women states importance of recognizing unequal caste structure that exists in feminist discourses in academia. It stresses that there are linkages between caste and patriarchy and that the word Me Too movement will not be relevant for Dalit women unless intersectional marginalities are acknowledged. This is one very important dialogue which is projected by the downtrodden women as a cultural projection of their rights and how they are being discriminated. These cultural barriers created, especially in our country from the beginning, have to be crossed, and the digital divide also has to be viewed from the point of view of our Indian culture and the tradition which they followed in this country. For various reasons, for various sections, faced difficulties, and it is being continued even after this technological emancipation in the organizations that certain section of the people are being looked down and oppressed. Although online misogyny may be new phenomenon, it resonates with particular patriarchal attempts to limit women's public presence and stifle their voices, viewing them as inferior. Patriarchal systems also warn the women to not who overstep their mark will be punished. This call out culture focuses on micro rebellions, and all these things will have to be viewed in a comprehensive way by any organization in building up a mechanism specifically for women employees in who are in building a way, a path for them to keep themselves safe and having at the same time having a free interaction in the organization to develop their abilities in the interest of the organization. To conclude, cyber feminism, what is to be done? For some feminists, the digital space replicates oppressive hierarchies that are embedded in a global political economy. For others, it represents a new avenue for global feminist networking and an opportunity to be active participants in their own revolution, irrespective of geographical boundaries. For still others, the internet offers a safe space and a way to not just share common experiences but also to organize and resist repressive gender regimes. This particular aspect has to be taken care of by the organization top leadership in organizing to see that women employees organize and resist repressive gender regimes and people who are doing that. Despite the positive contributions of digital activism in building a new movement of feminism, it is often perceived to myopic in its vision. Instances such as Nirbhaya movement indicate that digital feminism is typically episodic and in response to an event. Cyber feminism is more reactive while offline movements are proactive. This is the difference between definitely outside and the because the cyber feminism has its own path and its own area, its own space to do something bigger and better than the outer space. Narrowing the existing digital divide can play a crucial role in increasing the participation of marginalized women. India currently lacks the tools to encourage inclusive online movements, independent of non on ground activism. Online activism should be able to translate into offline participation. This is the slogan now in India from several educated, emancipated, and well read women they are projecting. Online activism should be able to translate into offline participation, wherein they form symbiotic relationship to support and boost each other's cause. The voices of the marginalized must be represented in a fair manner to broaden the agenda. Feminist groups and organizations must consider assimilating local culture and sociological factors while advocating for rights online. Further, increased pressure should be applied to governments, corporations, and other institutions to step up and assist the building of legislative backdrop also. Finally, as far as the organizations are concerned, it can definitely develop that a culture of online activism should it will be able to translate into offline participation by a group helping each other even outside the campus of the organization. That culture will come only with the entire leadership of the organization takes this as an objective and as a core development practice in order to protect their women employees. Thank you very much.